Hello guys, and welcome to the first installment of Method's Gold Challenge World Guides. We start today with Bloodmaul Slagmines. I'm Chris Potter, and here with me is Scribe.
Hi guys.
The purpose of these videos is to provide you guys with some insight in how to achieve the gold medal in your own runs. While we have a lot of experience in doing challenge worlds, and there are endless ways to min-max runs, this challenge world is being run without all of the OP tricks and special tactics. Our setup here in the video is a Blood DK, Warrior DPS, 200 DPS, and a Resto Druid. However, these tactics can be done with any setup.
So we just AoE down the first pack with all our cooldowns and they die pretty fast, but you should still watch out for the crashes from the enforcers. On this next pack here we have an Overseer that casts a Subjugate which needs to be interrupted, and a Geomancer who casts a very big shield called Stone Bulwark that you also need to interrupt very quickly, and if you fail to interrupt it, as it is a really fast cast that can happen, you can still purge the target. We also pulled the Patrol, as you can see, because it wasn't really that hard to kill the first pack, even though we tried to make it easy. It was too easy, so you can just pull them. If your DPS is a bit too low, you can pull them later. It doesn't really matter. Then the Overseer also has a suppression field that is a silencing zone cast on a random ranged member, and it's quite important that you don't stack up as ranged by mistake, which people do very often without realizing. And especially silencing your healer is a really bad thing here. Your tank could die very fast. Next we have some slaver mobs that we kind of ignored till now since, well, they were dying very fast. But we have 3 of them now, and yeah, you need to watch out for these. They cast a Slaver's Rage buff on themselves, and if you have a Hunter, Rogue or a Druid, you can dispel those. But if you don't have it, then you might want to take it slow here, maybe pull only 2 at a time. We had enough dispels, so we just pulled all 3 and just cleave them down slowly. Make sure to keep your DPS cooldowns here. The next pack is going to be a bit bigger than this one.
So yeah, in the next pack, it's like a mini gauntlet run where we're gonna pull all the mobs to the big Magma Lord at the end, and use our DPS cooldowns there to AoE down them as fast as possible. The reason that we do this is because these small searing ember mobs, they continue to respawn until you've defeated the Magma Lord. That's why we take them all to the end and AoE them there. The Magma Lord will cast fireballs. He'll basically chain cast them unless you interrupt him, and if you let him chain cast them without interrupting him, he's gonna do a lot of damage to the tank and probably kill him. You should also be careful while you're going down this corridor not to AoE too early or burst too high at the start, because it's quite easy to get aggro off the tank there on the smaller mobs, and that's going to cause a bit of disorder and probably get someone killed. So we finish these mobs up now that the Magma Lord's dead, and we're going to run around this bit in the middle, around the side, to the next pack, and this next pack is quite dangerous. There's 2 really important abilities that you need to know about, and the first is that the mages will cast a Blood Rage buff on its allies, and it prevents its allies from being interrupted and increases their casting speed. This buff can and really should be dispelled. You can also interrupt the buff to stop it going up, but the reason that it's so important not to have the buff up is because the second important ability is the AoE Fear ability, and if that goes through, it's probably going to cause a wipe. So you need to not have the Blood Rage buff up so you're able to interrupt them. You should also use any DPS cooldowns and personal cooldowns that are available here, as this pack is a lot harder than the boss after it, and you'll probably not need them for the boss. Even with good interrupting dispelling, this pack can be difficult, so use everything you have.
And yeah, here we're at the first boss. This is also the boss we're gonna Bloodlust, as we're gonna die after this anyways to reset the Bloodlust, so you don't lose anything by lusting here. A lot more about that later. If you don't have a Bloodlusting class in your setup, like no Shaman, no Mage, no Hunter, then you should probably buy some drums from the auction house, and just anyone who can pop it should pop it. This boss has 2 phases. In the phase 1, he just casts his Magma Barrage, which just throw some balls around that you need to watch as ranged and just move out of them. And he summons 2 elementals. The first one is an earth elemental that just does a frontal cone stun, just like the enforcers. And the second one is a fire elemental that does just some scorches on the tank, which basically don't matter, and some spell called Channeling Flames that does raid damage, and you can interrupt this, and yeah, it's really easy if you do that. Now phase 2, this is the elemental from the furnace that comes out. That's a real boss, and he has 3 spells. First one is his stun. around him. It's basically the same time as the Earth Elemental, but it's a circle around him, so all melee needs to move out and yeah, stop DPS for a split second and then go back in. The second ability is the Molten Impact, or the Molten Ad, that just flies from the sky, does some damage when it lands, and yeah, that's pretty much the only damage it does, but you still want to kill it. If you don't interrupt it, you're gonna have some issues with it. So just switch to it, kill it, and if it gets to casting, just interrupt it once. The last ability is called Withering Flames, but yeah, that's pretty easy ability. It's just a debuff on your party members, which does ticking damage, and you need to dispel it as a healer. It's really easy to dispel, it also doesn't do much damage. You shouldn't really have any problems with that. So when we get closer to the boss dying, we already start moving to the furnace, because we're gonna go in here and suicide to get the bloodlust debuff away, so we can lust earlier. And we're also gonna teleport to the start of the dungeon and save some time walking around.
Yeah, as Scribe just said, it's really nice to, you know, get that bloodlust cooldown gone, and you're gonna have to walk back anyway, so it really just makes a lot of sense. And when we do this, it's important to remember to obviously rebuff and get your food buff again, resummon your pets, because there's a lot of the dungeon left, and you'll feel a bit stupid at the end of the dungeon if you realize that you didn't have your pet out the entire time, or you didn't have your buffs the entire time. So just make sure to do that. Now we're going to do a pretty easy pack here. It's going to be some of the same option from earlier, the Slaver mobs. We're going to take 3 of them here. And they still need to be dispelled on the enrage. So trank shots, soothes, that kind of thing. But generally these packs shouldn't cause you too much problems. And you shouldn't need to use any big cooldowns here, just 1 minute or shorter cooldowns. Because the pack after this is a lot more dangerous. And you're going to want your DPS cooldowns there.
Yeah, so the pack after this one is basically just like the second pack. A little bit harder, but yeah, no big thing. Just an Overseer and the Geomancer again. You want to focus down the Geomancer just like last time and interrupt the shields and interrupt the stuns from the Overseer, the Subjugate. And there's also a Patrol just like last time, but the Patrol this time has a Geomancer and Overseer as well. So you don't want to pull them before at least the Geomancer dies here. Otherwise you're definitely gonna get outrun by interrupts. You can also stun these mobs, but yeah, interrupting them and just killing this Geomancer and pulling the Patrol next is easier. You can also delay this pull again, just like last time. You can pull this pack even after the boss if they are not around, if they are patrolling somewhere else. It really depends on where they are. But yeah, just kill them off and get ready for the next pack. After this pack, we're gonna have the 2 mages again, just like last time where Chris mentioned before the first boss. And we're gonna have a warder that does a fear. So it's very important here to interrupt the 2 mages, preferably assign an interrupt to each mage and 1 guy to interrupt the fear on the warden. And you should also purge the mage buff, like Chris said before, on the warden if it's an issue. As ranged, you can stand here as max range, and if something goes wrong and the fear comes through, you're still not gonna get feared, and especially the healer can still keep the tank alive if he's not getting feared. To this pack, we have 2 new wardens. They also do fear casts, and you again want to keep the assignments for the interrupts. 1 guy CCing the right one, 1 guy interrupting the left one, and you probably want to nuke one of them down so you have an easy time. But it's not really that important because the cast has a very long cooldown and you can also just kill them and cleave them at the same time. But yeah, you just kill these 2 and get ready for the boss. You don't really need to use DPS cooldowns here. Prefer to keep them for the boss.
Yeah, so this boss has 4 main abilities it's going to do. The first is an Earth Crush, which is a conal attack in the way that he's going to be facing in his direction. If you're hit by this, you're going to take a bit of damage and you're going to be stunned for 2 seconds. And the stun is the really annoying part, because if you're stunned, you can't react to the other abilities going on in the fight. And obviously, it's quite a big DPS loss to be sitting there in a stun. The second ability that he's going to do is the Ferocious Yell, which is a cast, and he does it quite frequently. But if you let these cards through, they're going to do big AoE damage to the whole group, and also going to give the boss a buff that increases his overall damage done. So very bad thing to let that card through. The third ability is called Raise the Miners, which summons these ads into the fight. and these ads are very low HP and they can be killed really fast. However, if they're not picked up by the tank or they're not killed fast enough, they can actually go and hit DPS or healers and probably kill one of them. So it's important, you know, they're pretty easy to deal with, just make sure they're dealt with. The fourth and final ability here is the Wild Slam and Crushing Leap combo. So the Wild Slam just knocks everyone away, and then he's also going to do the Crushing Leap, which will root a player, and then cause the ads in the fight to focus on attacking that player. And as I said, that can be very bad if they're not attacking the tank, so just be careful of that and kill the ads off as fast as possible. You shouldn't use a DPS potion towards the end of this fight because very shortly we're going to be using an Invis potion, and using a DPS potion or a mana potion will put Invisibility potion on cooldown, so don't do that. So after the boss there's this one mob here that we pull, and we could have skipped this, but we're doing a slightly different tactic for the purpose of this video, and we were unsure about the kill count, so we just pulled it to be on the safe side. So again, we're not going to be using any potions on this because we want our Invis pot ready, which we're going to be doing shortly. And it's important here when we Invis that everyone dismisses their pets, guardians, all that kind of thing. And before you Invis, if you have a hunter or druid, you want to use Stampeding Roar or Aspect of the Pack before you go into Invis. Because if you use any abilities while you're under the effects of the Invisibility potion, it will break it and probably wipe you. When we're coming out of the Invis potion here, it's important that you come out on the middle of the bridge, because you come out at the top or too far at the back, you're going to ninja pull either the boss or the mobs behind you.
Okay, so here we are at the third boss, and he also has 3 abilities. The first one you already see are those stones, big stones falling from the sky, and they come at random places. Well, they have 3 places, but the rotation is random, and they also come back in the same rotation they came. So you need to watch out for them and remember where they came from at the first place and go to the safe spots. There's also the second ability here you can see, the Heat Wave. That's just a pushback. Will make your DPS go a bit lower, I guess, if you're not a hunter. But you don't want to go too far back with this pushback, because you see in the back there are still ads up, and if you go a little bit further, you're gonna pull them, and that's definitely a vibe there. And you also see he threw some flames on the ground. Well, nothing much to say about them. He throws it to a random location, and they just do damage. You just don't want to stand in them. Pretty simple. Another thing worthy of mentioning is the debuff that you get if you stand too close to the boss. It doesn't matter for melee, but for casters it's a very big thing. It increases your casting time by 100%, so not casting speed, but casting time, so you're getting slower casts off. And yeah, that's a really bad thing here, because as you can see, the ground gets filled by fire if you wait too long. Then there's next the giant that we're just gonna skip. We're just gonna run around it because, well, we can. We have enough mobs killed. You can root it if you want to, but it was not necessary in this time for us, so we just ran past it.
Yeah, the root's definitely handy there, but it's like usually not needed if the timing's fine and running past. These mobs that we come up to now, they're 2 big guys, and they can be really dangerous actually, because they deal group-wide AoE damage, and it can be hard on the healer because both of them are casting at the same time. So it's a good time here to use healing cooldowns or survival cooldowns, because there's not really that many other places in the dungeon where you really need to use them. Because they're both casting and doing big damage, AoE damage, we try to kind of prioritize one. You can cleave a bit, but it makes sense to try and kill one off quickly so that you're actually halving the damage that the group's taking. One other thing to note here is if you're in melee range, you're going to get knocked back by him. And if you look around the room, you're going to see a lot of lava and fire. So it's not going to be very good if you get knocked back into lava or fire. So just watch out for that where your back's facing. And now we have these custom mobs, and they have 2 abilities. And the first is Exploding Flames, which they just spawn a fire orb on the ground, and you just simply need to not stand in it. Very simple. And then another supposedly very simple ability is the Channel Flames, where they just do a directional flame, and you're not supposed to stand in that. However, as we see here, I haven't done the best job of that, so you need to be better than I am. Be a better player than I am, because I did not play that like a pro. But luckily, we have battle resist for a reason, so I'm straight back up again. We're not using any DPS cooldowns on this pack because it's supposed to be very easy, and we're going to want them for the boss coming up now.
Yeah, so yeah, as Chris mentioned, we have everything ready here. We don't have a Bloodlust debuff. We are ready to push the boss with everything we have. We also skip the left mob that we see, because we just don't need it. This is the last boss, by the way. As you can see, we have 7 minutes left, so it's pretty easy. So the boss has 4 abilities. The first one is this Molten Blast that you can interrupt, and you should interrupt, unless you're doing some tricky thing with your mages. Because if this Molten Blast goes through, the boss gets a buff that increases his damage, and you can either dispel or spell steal it. And it's a DPS increase for mages, but apart from that, if you don't have any, just interrupt the cast or purge, worst case. The second ability is the Magma Eruption, the zones that you see on the ground that you just move out of. Next is the adds. He spawns one small elemental that is trying to reach some position, and well, you want to stun him, slow him, and just cleave him down. If you don't have anything for slowing or stunning, you just nuke it so it doesn't go away too far. And the last ability is kind of soft enrage ability, the Flame Buffet, which is just a stacking debuff on your party members. And yeah, it stacks over time, and you want to dispel it if it reaches like 3-4 stacks, but usually by that time the boss is dead, especially since you have Bloodlust up and everything. But yeah, that's it guys. As you can see, you have still enough time, and it was a pretty easy run. Thanks for watching the video. Good luck on your gold challenge mod runs, and yeah, that's it. Bye.
Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you found the video useful. Remember to comment, like, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video or found it useful at all. And keep an eye out for future challenge mode guides that we'll hopefully be bringing to you soon. Thanks, guys.